My name is Elizabeth Amador Salem, class of 1991, and I'm a member of the Lead It Planning Committee. I'm also part of the Latino Alumni Association. It's my first year on the Alumni Council. Thank you, Diana, for that nomination. I'm also the former chair of the Tufts New York City Alumni Chapter, and best of all, the proud parent of a freshman at Tufts. So you've probably heard the term transformative experience this weekend, mentioned by more than one person. Ensuring that all Tufts students have transformative experiences to unlock opportunities today and tomorrow is not only a key goal of the Brighter World campaign, but also an integral part of Tufts' mission. These experiences can change not only the lives of the students, but also the lives of those around them. As a first-generation student myself from a Cuban immigrant family, I can relate, and this was certainly the case for me. Simply put, these experiences can transform the world. Now, we're going to hear from some Tufts students who will share with us their transformative experiences. And our moderator is Patricia McMahon, Dean of Student Affairs of the School of Arts and Sciences and the School of Engineering. Please join me in welcoming Dean McMahon.
All right, thank you. I see plenty of faces that I recognize here, and I'm really pleased that we're all going to have a chance to have this conversation. Thank you, Liz. Thank you to everybody who organized this particularly special weekend. Again, I'm Pat Mcmahon. I'm the Dean of Student Affairs for Art, Science, and Engineering for undergraduate and graduate students in the AS&E. The conversation goal for us today is for you to hear from our students and to hear from 4 students who are involved in a whole plethora of different campus community objectives, majors, academic endeavors, and who are going to be people, I'm going to say this about you, who are going to be people who come back and continue to engage and continue to foster a dynamic student life at Tufts well after they graduate in 6 months, or actually, 6 months or about a year and a half. So I'm going to ask our students to introduce themselves, and we have a couple of prompting questions to sort of start a conversation, and then the goal is that we can actually have a conversation with you all in sort of an exchange fashion about sort of student life right now, what the undergraduate experience academically, co-curricularly, personally looks like, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to ask my panelists if you could introduce yourself a little bit about your major, your field of study, significant ways that you engage your time outside of the classroom, be that research, career-based stuff, athletics, different leadership experiences that you have. And I'm going to ask a whole bunch of questions after that, but so name, maybe hometown. And as I said before, well, I'll ask the second question after, because I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about what you expected your Tufts experience to be and what you're actually experiencing Tufts to be, like what surprised you about your 3 or 4 years here. I gave that question in advance, so they're ready to answer that. But let's just start with, who are you? What are you studying? And a little bit about how you're involved here on campus. So Sebla, do you mind kicking us off?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Sebla Igletu. I am a...
Oh, a little louder. Yeah.
Oh. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Sebla Igletu. I am a junior in the Community Health Department. I am originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And on this campus, I'm very involved in BLAST, which is the Bridge to Liberal Arts Success at Tufts. And I am also an executive board member of the Minority Association of Pre-Health Students.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Sim. I'm a senior here, and I'm originally from Orange County, California. Some things that I have done on campus and I continue to do are STEM Ambassadors, which is a program with the Center for STEM Diversity. I also served on the Tufts Community Union Senate for 3 years, taking a break for this year, but that was a chunk of my time at Tufts. And I forgot to mention what my major is. I'm a computer science major, and I minor in sociology. And in my free time, I'm starting a social venture, creating an application for undocumented immigrants to know their rights.
Morning, everyone. I'm Greg Holt. I'm a junior from Temecula, California. I'm part of the football team, one of the captains on the team. Also, when I'm here, I'm part of Big Brother, Big Sisters of Massachusetts, so I go to the local elementary school. I go to homeless shelter every once in a while, but those are like the things I do off campus. And on campus, it's mostly football and studying and things like that.
Hi everyone, my name is Anthony. I am a senior. I'm majoring in biology and just declared a major in psychology as well, so it's never too late. On campus, I'm involved in a multitude of different things. I'm involved in Tufts EMS, TEMS, as some of you may know it by. I'm involved with residential life. I'm a first-year advisor, also known as a resident assistant. I am involved with the pre-orientation program Focus, is a community service orientation program, and we work with adults with physical and mental disabilities. And let me see, I'm involved with a few pre-health organizations on campus. Outside of campus, I work at Boston Medical Center in the emergency department as a technician. So I love the adrenaline rush there. And I do research at Beth Israel in the Center for Resuscitation Science, so a little bit more emergency medicine and critical care.
Thank you. One of the things that when I sort of get a sense of sort of who here has graduated from Tufts in the past 10 years? Okay, so a decent number of folks who have graduated in the past 10 years. And I'm assuming the rest of you graduated beyond that time. And so we're not going to do a sort of like who's going to identify themselves further than that. So Tufts, you know this, but I think it bears sort of framing out, right? So the admission rate for the class of 2022 is 14%. There were 21,000 applications to be part of the first-year class at Tufts last year. We have students in the first-year class from 46 states and 47 countries, or I might be incorrect and it's the other way around. It might be 47 states and 46 countries. Tufts, not that long ago was more of a sort of well-known sort of New England-based, sort of East Coast-based school. You just heard, New England, California, and Wisconsin. The students, we want to have a conversation about sort of what is it like to be here when you're joining a community of sort of scholars and leaders from literally every background. And so what is the campus culture like? How do people connect with each other? How do people engage? The first question I'm going to ask the panelists, which they are ready for, is to talk a little bit about their expectations. When they were looking in, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, at coming to Tufts and sort of thinking about whether or not this was going to be their experience, what was the picture in their mind of what they were going to get, and then what did the actual experience that they found, how did that compare? Because I think that's a real, I think you hear more as alumni about, what the book is out there, and we've got students here who can tell you a little bit about what the real experience is right now. And I'm imagining it'll be a little bit different, each of you, but if you could do a little, what you thought and what you got. How's that sound? And you can just sort of jump in when you're ready. It doesn't have to go down the line.
I can start.
Go ahead.
So I came from, I don't know if I said this before, I'm from Fall River, Massachusetts. I think I might have forgot to say that. So more of an inner city town, and I was looking for a school that was going to, I guess, break me into the real world. And I was looking at a top tier school. I wanted to go as high as possible. And I found Tufts, and I got into Tufts, and I didn't really have any expectations outside of this was the school that was going to propel me forward. And I still had the prior expectation of thinking, there are only so many fields you can go into. You can be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be a teacher. And that was what I had known before. And I think that when I got to Tufts, my mind was blown. I didn't realize that there were this many different majors that you could be a part of. I didn't realize that there were this many different career paths that you could move forward into. And so I think that Tufts really opened my eyes to the amount of opportunity that's out there outside of what I had been exposed to in the inner city that I grew up in. So I'm very thankful for that, and that has also been the reason why I am currently pre-med, but am looking to take a little bit of time to kind of rethink that, because I didn't actually realize that there were so many other opportunities that I could go into, and so everything's a little unknown right now, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, so, coming from California, I had never been to Massachusetts before I'd come out here. And I think the thing that surprised me was I thought I had a whole plan. I was going to play football, study, and worry about being cold in the winter and just trying to figure it out from there because my mom kept telling me all the blankets that I need to bring. But and then I got out here, and freshman year I was a little bit quiet, like I didn't venture out too much. But I think the amount of inspiration that we just like have on campus, depending on what you want to get into, so I like sociology and just seeing all the seminars and meetings and things you can go to, and meeting people and, hey, like, do you want to come try this out? And I think just finding your passion here was something that I wasn't expecting to be doing because I thought I kind of had a plan before I got here. And then getting here and meeting people and doing things that I never expected I would be doing and being passionate about things I never thought I would be passionate about is something that really shocked me when I got here.
For me, I'm a first-generation college student, so I had no expectations when I was coming into college. I just knew that it was a place of academics and studying, and I was like, okay, like, this is going to propel me into going to law school, because initially that was my plan. And I wanted to study English, which is, if you remember what I'm studying now, it's computer science. It's nothing like English. I did a complete 180. So for me, what was the most surprising about Tufts, and something that I think doesn't exist in any other institution, is how Tufts allows every student to become multifaceted. And that is appreciated and that is encouraged. So you'll find plenty of comp-sci students who also do tap dancing, or like who are also athletes despite like having such a difficult major. And for me, being around students who want to push themselves to try different things all the time, that's the way that I've grown most at this school, and I think that's what surprises me that's what is surprising to me every day. So I've always really appreciated the people that I'm surrounded by, and mostly not only because they push themselves, but also because everyone cares about something very deeply, and I think you'll be able to tell from our conversation today as well. So it's cool to care at Tufts, and that's what I really appreciate too.
When I think of what surprised me when I came to Tufts, there are two things that really come to mind. The first being, I'm also a first-generation college student. So when I came, I thought it was going to be lots of studying and not a lot of community involvement. And something that I've really noticed through my time at Tufts is that I've had a lot of opportunities through my coursework to be involved with different nonprofit organizations, to go out in the community, to do work. I'm also a Tisch Scholar, so I've had the opportunity to work in the community for the past 2 years, and it's been a really important part of my Tufts career. The second thing would be the support that I've gotten from faculty and staff. Being a first-generation student, I was very nervous of coming to Tufts and adjusting academically. And with how renowned our professors are and the incredible research that they do, I didn't think they would have time to really care about each student and ask, how are you doing? How are you adjusting? How is this coursework? How is this different from where you learned in high school? And all of those things. So I think the support that I got from my faculty was also something that really surprised me.
That's great. Thank you. So I've also asked the students to each think about a question about mentorship. In May at reunion and at graduation weekend, I was lucky enough to be the keynote speaker for the class of 1968 to talk about sort of student life now versus student life then. To my incredible chagrin. Well, I just became very nervous because guess who was sitting in the audience for my review of class of 68 to now? But Saul Gittleman. And I said to him afterwards, I said, Saul, it's like having, like running a basketball skills clinic and having LeBron James like come in and like sit there and watch you do it. And he goes, don't even worry about it. But it struck me that he had connections to the class in 1968. There were students in the room 50 years later who had mentorship and real lifelong connection with Saul. And, it's amazing. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It's also struck me that our current students, when I think about so many things feel different about undergraduate life today, and we can talk about that as a group, but there's also this piece where some of the things that have been true, I think, about your experience about Tufts, why you're coming back on a Sunday in the fall, is because there were people who invested and cared in you when you were here as a student from, a few years ago or further back. So I asked the students to think a little bit who, it could be a friend, it could be a faculty member, it could be, another person on campus. If you could describe what the relationship you have with somebody who has really mentored you has been like, that would be amazing. So I think that's just a nice way for people to think about this is what Tufts still looks like.
I can start. So I think that the most important and influential mentorship that I received was during my BLAST experience. BLAST is a 6-week program. It is a bridge program where students have the opportunity to take 2 courses and acclimate to campus 2 months before their freshman year begins. And during that process, we have 4 peer leaders who are folks who have done BLAST in the past, who are mentors, and having students who looked like me, who came from backgrounds like me, that were doing Tufts and achieving and succeeding was really, really important to me. And it wasn't even that I got this like very intense mentorship from them, but seeing them, having them on campus, having them understand where I came from was so monumental in my adjustment at Tufts, and something that I really want to carry with me for the younger students, how important it is to have that informal mentorship from students who look like you on this campus.
For me, the first person that comes to mind for me is someone named Kristen Finch, and she was the Associate Director of the Center for STEM Diversity, and I do a program with them, again, called STEM Ambassadors. And I think the biggest lesson I've taken away from our relationship is I've learned how to ask for help. And as a first-generation college student, most of us, our experiences are very similar in that we have gotten here on our own and we didn't have to ask for help. So if you can take care of things on your own, you do it. But for me, coming to Tufts, 3,000 miles away from home, it was such a big change, and it was a change in the peers that I had. You know, the demographics of people that I interacted with every day were different. And the major that I chose, if you know, computer science has a gender parity problem. So for me, I didn't get to see students who look like me every day in my classes, in skin color and in gender. And for me, that really impacted my confidence in feeling like I could do this work, this line of work that I chose for the first time. So I was just kind of harboring these feelings, and I had lower self-confidence in terms of what I felt like I could achieve. But Kristen, who I saw every week through this program, she would not only check in with me to make sure that I was doing okay, but also she's a Black woman with a PhD in chemistry doing community outreach work because she believes that there is a diversity problem in STEM. Seeing her do her work and seeing her having conviction in wanting to inspire students in the Boston area to come into STEM, that made me want to stay in STEM. And that revitalized my commitment to staying in computer science and doing the same sort of retention work. So she definitely led by example, and that's the kind of relationship that I seek in mentorship, and also I want to provide that to younger students as well.
So the first person I thought of was our head coach, Jay Savetti, and I think the reason why I thought of him, I had never heard of Tufts prior to looking at football schools. I thought I was going to stay on the West Coast. And I was worried about leaving my family, like she said, 3,000 miles away. But when I got here, Coach Savetti, picked me up from the airport, and ever since then, he hasn't left my side. I spent a lot of time with him. And I think something that he taught me that was important is, it's okay to not be okay. I think a lot of the times, being an athlete or being a college student, you just think, oh, I have to be perfect all the time, after this all the time. And I just go into Coach Savetti's office, something's not going well, I sit down, he's like, hey, it's okay, we'll figure it out. You need help in a class, I'll get you a tutor, or you can look to all your older teammates. And I think just that relationship that we've built, and being on the football team, he teaches us how to be humble, have integrity, resilience, all these other aspects of life that I don't think I was expecting, but just having somebody by your side the whole time is something really special. I really appreciate him for all that he's done as I've been here.
When I came to Tufts, I didn't know anybody. Nobody from my high school had gotten into Tufts in the past few years, and so it was a very, even though it was only about an hour away from my hometown, it was still a very big change. And I got to college and I decided to join as many different clubs as I could. And one of the organizations that I joined was and is called Blackout Step Team. It's an all-male identifying African step team, very unconventional from my persona. And I loved it, and it was amazing. And an individual on the team who's a senior, his name is Noah Yee. He's now at the University of Hawaii Medical School, and he came over to me and he was extremely interested in the things that I had to say and the and in my performance with the team. And that just took me by surprise because I was so used to the high school senior freshman relationship where you just try to avoid all the seniors. And it was amazing to have an individual like this who really cared about me and wanted to know, what I wanted to do with my life. And I think that he became a mentor for me because I was always able to go to him to figure out which classes to take and to figure out what I could be doing to put myself in the best position to move my career forward. And I, to this day, still contact him, even though he has an extremely busy schedule. I still have time to contact, or he still has time to contact me about, once or twice a week, once or twice a month. And, I'm still talking to him. And even though I'm looking at different career paths now, I still have that individual who wants to know and is invested in what I have to say and what I want to do, and it kind of gives me the motivation to seek out these high-achieving fields.
That's great. Thank you. So when Saul was in the audience at this class of 68 50-year talk, the one woman from the engineering school who graduated in 1968 was also in the audience. And we have 49% female engineers in the class of 2022. And he told me, yeah, I know, we can actually applaud that because it's an amazing thing. It's really cool. We were at 50, and then some school went to their wait list and bumped us a little below 50. But the incredible thing, I also talked about the fact that 750 of our students in the AS&E, Arts and Science Engineering, undergrad and graduate population have some kind of learning accommodation. And Saul came up to me afterwards and said, that's one of the big differences too, right? That people have different sort of pathways into learning. There's different ways that people think about sort of supporting learning in higher ed. He said, those really smart kids were here before, but they were made to feel totally left out because the sort of the supports around their learning was totally different. It was sort of a good luck, go get them. Yes, a lot of mentorship and a lot of faculty investment, but less around sort of how do people learn and sort of engage material in different ways. But that's sort of that moment, sort of thinking about that one moment and sort of building on what you all were saying about the experiences that people have now. I wanted to build on one other question, then I want to open it up to you all. And not everybody has to answer this, but you talked about coming in as an English major and then going into computer science. Anthony's talking a little bit about a pivot away possibly from the medical school right now. Can I ask you, can you say a little bit more about, an academic sort of idea that changed your course while you were here, either with, sort of a lecture, a paper, a research experience. It could be a summer research experience or summer internship. But what can you give me a couple of examples so people can get a sense of what's that like right now? What is it like to come in? How are you sort of navigating your learning pathway, and what might be one moment? It could be a particular class that you had to take that changed things. What's something that sort of altered your course academically or in the sort of career way?
So for me, I think going off of the mentorship question too, there's a lot of interaction between underclassmen and upperclassmen. And for me, the first place I got that was through the Focus pre-orientation, which is a community service-based pre-orientation program for first years before school starts and before orientation week. And in that program, my seniors told me that I should take this Intro to Computer Science class because the lecture was cool. Not because the topic was supposed to be cool, but because the person teaching it was really cool. So I took it, and the reason why I kind of jumped the gun and signed that as my major was because I saw the way that I was thinking, and I felt like a switch flip. I felt like I could start thinking about problems in a completely different way because of this one class. So I got hooked, and then I changed my majors then and there. And what I did is I kind of did a deep dive into computer science and math. So all I started taking were those courses. But then 2 years later, I realized that I didn't feel like I was growing in a way where I felt like I was only intellectually growing in one way. So I took a sociology class in junior year fall for the first time. And that's kind of when I found my passions for English again and writing and learning about social issues, because I took a class called Sociology of Higher Education. And it was actually a deep dive study into Tufts and systems that work underneath higher education. And it was with a professor named Frieden Bloom-Orr. And he's also one of my mentors as well. And he completely changed the way I think about the world as a whole. And that's what sociology has done for me. So I think the big pivotal moments that have propelled my academic career in different ways are the classes that I took on a whim because of recommendations, and the classes that I thought I would dread, but actually ended up really liking. And I think what's cool about Tufts is that for the first year, no one comes in declared with a major. For many schools, students have to be in the engineering school or the arts and sciences school, and like that's their set path. But for Tufts, they don't, everyone's undeclared for the first year. So you can choose whatever path you want to, and it gives a lot of flexibility for students to actually explore academically. And I think that flexibility is what allowed me to become a computer science major and also now a sociology minor.
For myself, to answer your first question about how does it feel, it is absolutely terrifying. And we have an amazing career center here, and I would probably be on the list of the individual that sees the career center the most each week. I'm there at least 2 or 3 times a week.
True.
We have our executive director here, and I was waiting for a comment. But I think for me, I pride myself in being an individual who, if I set my mind to something, I'm able to achieve that to an exceptional level. And I was interested in medicine in high school, and I basically put my nose down and did everything that I needed to do in order to put myself in the best position to move on to a top medical school, as I had done from high school to undergrad. And I think that the pivotal moment for me came this summer. I was working at Boston Medical Center, as I had previously stated. And as much fun as I was having, working with all these different types of patients and excuse me, and giving optimal patient care, I realized that medicine wasn't everything. And I realized that although I'm happy doing what I'm doing, I now have the opportunity to kind of take a step back and sort of reevaluate and think about if medicine is actually something that I really want to do, or if it was something that I initially thought I would be extremely good at and did everything that I could do to put myself in the best position for that in the future. And I think that Tufts, like I had said, is an institution where you are given so many different opportunities that when I got back to campus this current fall, there was no absence of that, and I was even more able to kind of think about all these different career paths, for the better or for the worse, being a senior now. But I think that I was actually able to step back and say, do I want to do this because I really love this, or do I want to do it because I think I'd be good at it?
If you want to chime in, it's okay. If we're good. Okay. So Greg Victory is here. Greg is our executive director of the Career Center. He's in his 3rd year now. And Greg, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you if you can just say a little bit about how many career paths and career sort of occupations are our current students going to go into? Yeah.
So there's some that don't even exist. So half of you have already heard from me this weekend. So
Yeah.
But I mean, really, we're entering a phase of the future of work with AI and automation that's drastically changing. And I think Tufts is actually positioned to take the lead in every single category because we're creating T-shaped graduates. And these are some of my favorite people on campus, and there are thousands more like them here who are prepared to take on roles that currently don't exist today because of these experiences, because you can study sociology while you're being a computer scientist. And those combination of things really are super valuable. And it's kind of fun to be in my role to sort of say, look, we're doing this. We got some tweaks here or there, but when you're selling, for lack of a better term, products like this to the general working world, it's actually fairly easy on most days.
Yeah. One of the things we're trying to do in those sort of, the services that go around students' academic experience right now, we want them to sort of unpack critical ideas in their major, have exposure to different academic experiences, but also think about the skill development that complements that academic experience through being a leader in different organizations, through leading a team, through sort of a community service work. And we're really trying to think in a way that folds the different pieces of a student experience together so that they're drawing the threads together around the skills that they're building. building. I've been working with really talented undergrads for 20 years now, and what I have noticed is that some of our brightest and most talented students, just through their sheer dynamism, are able to sort of open up a lot of doors, and then they reach a point where they haven't been sort of forced to think about what skills have you gained in this particular experience, and sort of how is this sort of teaching you a different thing that you could sort of pivot into something else. So one of the things we're trying to do is meet students who are incredibly talented where they are, and then help them think through what are the skills you're building. Like if you do a summer internship in Ethiopia, in the summer, and you have incredible research and sort of first person. I happen to know like what Sebla did last summer, and it was amazing. Doing research with families, incredible work. What is that sort of she may or may not go into public health, but what are the skills that she's gaining out of an experience like that? So there's all kinds of examples here, but that's one of our goals, is to think about all this whole suite of experiences that the students have. Help them go into enough depth to have some real sort of awareness of what they're getting out of the experience, and sort of really sort of know sometimes what they don't want to do, learn by sort of saying, this isn't for me, this isn't resonant, but then understand the whys of that too. So we're having a great time. I'm sure you have a million questions, and I'm going to open it up now to who would like to ask our amazing students about their current experience. Anyway, I think we'll go here and then we'll go to Matt.
Okay. Hi, thank you so much for coming out on a Sunday to talk to us. I graduated in 2014, and it's really exciting that Houston and Miller are now getting updated, because I lived in Houston freshman year, and it needed some updates.
People here from the class of 74, it's the same room now, and it's going to look different.
Yeah, my mom graduated in 77, and on move-in day, she said it looked the same.
Correct.
So that's really exciting, and I know that Tufts is working on changing some of the houses into student housing. I'm wondering if you all could speak to the current environment for housing, especially for upperclassmen, because I know that Somerville is becoming more of a hip spot, getting more expensive. What's it like for all of you? Are more people living on campus? Is it getting just increasingly expensive for off-campus housing? And what have your experiences been with that?
Great.
I live off campus. I live in Medford, right next to the athletic center. I definitely got a pretty good deal on my rent, but I know a lot of my teammates who are struggling to find rent. I don't know if too many of my teammates right now who are upperclassmen are living on campus. I know Sophia Gordon Hall, a good amount of people live there, and that's an awesome place. But I mean, I like living off campus better. I think it's more enjoyable just because you can go to like 4 different houses and feel at home at all of them. But I mean, I really liked I lived in Miller, so I was in the same area, and I think it's such an awesome experience. I would go back in a heartbeat just to relive it one more time. But off campus is definitely nice. It is expensive, but it's good.
I think to add to that, one of the problems that we currently have from talking to an individual in residential life is that we have every year about 600 juniors and seniors who would like to live on campus, who are not able to live on campus because we just physically do not have the space. And I know that the university is taking action to sort of take over some of the wood frame houses near University and Bellevue down behind Hill Hall. And I think that that's going to be an amazing thing because it will allow those students that want to live on campus and don't want to tackle the novelties of off-campus housing at the moment. It'll give them the opportunity to live with individuals and still live underneath the on-campus housing system, but that continues to be an ever-growing problem because we have so many students at Tufts and we have a limited amount of space because we don't have these massive buildings in the south.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And the one thing I'll add is that Anthony's talking about COHO, community housing, which are spaces that have been offices. They've also been sort of faculty housing in the past, and they're being used as student upper class housing with the idea that, we took a survey of students. They said they wanted to live like regular people, sort of that sort of, the charm of being in a barracks, 2 double hallway residence hall kind of wears off. We know that first years actually appreciate that sort of community. We also know that sophomores like living in groups, generally speaking. So Haskell, which was a first-year residence hall for years, is now a sophomore residence hall and is significantly more successful as a suite of 10 with the people that you want to pull in versus kind of like playing a 10-person lottery every year with Haskell for first years. So we've done a whole, I'm happy to talk later about what we've done to sort of enhance the residential experience year by year, but the goal for us is to add more housing that juniors and seniors would want on campus. You're correct that the Green Line extension is coming in, the rents, the sort of popularity of Somerville and Medford, and we want to sort of continue to be respectful and connected with our Medford, Somerville, and now our Fenway neighbors, and sort of think about how we create housing that's good for our students and good for the community. It's a goal. It's a long-term goal too. Next question. Matt.
Hi, Matt Marber, class of 2016. So first of all, thank you guys for joining us on your weekend and for sharing about all of your mentorship experiences, especially Focus. So being away from campus for a few years now, I'm still somewhat in touch with what's going on, but there's still some knowledge that we don't really know about what's the current campus climate. And I was wondering if you guys can talk a little bit about some areas for improvement or some things you'd like to see changed about the university.
Yeah, don't be bashful. I agree. It's all perfect. Yeah. I think they might be like, where do we start? What do you think? Do it.
I think that I really wish that there was more open dialogue on campus. Mm-hmm. I think that Tufts attracts the brightest of minds, and that comes with many faults, because I think that there are a lot of individuals, unspecifically, that are really passionate about what they do, and that's amazing, but I think that the problem comes when there are individuals that have differing opinions, and what could be an open dialogue tends to be a one-sided discussion. And I think that is something that I really wish Tufts could work on. And I can't really sit here and say that I have the answers and know how that could happen, because I think that there are pretty much everybody in this room probably has ways that it could be improved, but nothing is really getting institutionalized. And I think that it's a problem that we have that I don't really know how to solve, and I look for people in order to try to solve it. But it's definitely something that I've seen in my time at Tufts that I sort of wish was a little different.
I was going to add, so something that I think that Tufts could improve on, but is also making changes and efforts, is towards building spaces on campus for first-generation students that can really support them through their transition year and through that first year. This year was the first year of a pre-orientation called BEAST, which is a first-generation pre-orientation, getting students acclimated to being on a campus like Tufts, what everyday life is going to look like at Tufts, what are the challenges you're going to face, what are the resources, who you can reach out to. But this was the first year, and I think there's a lot more room for improvement. There was also this year the creation of the First House, which is a physical space that a lot of first-generation resources, student success advisors, a lot of people are in one place that help first-generation students make that transition. But I think that there's a lot more funding and support and just support from the university that could be happening in that direction. BLAST is another program that's absolutely amazing that can only be offered to about 20 students every year because there isn't enough funding to open it up to more students, even though in each incoming class there's over 100 students that would really benefit from that.
Something I think that Tufts can improve on is giving more pre-professional support for humanities majors. As you have probably seen, the SEC, the Science and Engineering Complex, has been built pretty recently, and it's beautiful. And you can see from the physical spaces that are allocated on campus how much we are pushing for engineering students, for the retention of them, for the recruitment of them. But what I hear from my friends who are English majors or are drama majors or any other majors that are humanities related in the arts and sciences is that they don't feel like they're getting enough support in both pre-professional ways and also like in space. So they, like for instance, Eaton Hall, which houses classics and sociology and American studies, like Eaton Hall, it has issues with the physical infrastructure of the building, but we're building out SEC first. So I just feel like there could be more resources that are allocated to supporting our humanities students, because even like for things like the career fair, it's like when people go, people always say that, oh, it's always tech companies, and they're like, I don't know what to do there. And I know that the Career Center has been giving opportunities for humanities students to find out more different pathways than what are more traditionally imagined. But I think it's like starting out for the first time, and I think there are more ways to be able to engage students who are in the humanities majors and make them feel more supported.
Okay. Greg, you got a magic wand? You got a thing you want to solve? Yeah, okay, good. And I think I really appreciate all these questions, all these answers, and we can expound on those, because there's ways that we're thinking about each of these, but we have a long way to go. There's no question. I see a hand over here.
So it seemed, my name is Ramon Brown, class of 2018, also a BLAST alumni. So what Anthony described seems to be one of those transformative experiences where you have to start thinking about being efficient versus being effective. So you were very efficient in your path towards med school. You were checking all of the boxes, you're on TEMS, you're volunteering in hospitals, but perhaps you weren't being effective in figuring out what the right path for you was. So that was born out of a work opportunity. What do you feel, like how are you all attempting to get access to these work opportunities, or what do you feel we on the Alumni Council can do to sort of facilitate that process where you have these aha moments where you're able to better figure out what the right path for you or what the wrong path for you is?
That's great. Thanks, Ramon. Nice to see you. Go ahead. You're ready.
I think that for outside of the alumni base, I think that the Career Center is amazing in terms of my ability to go there and basically say, I want to turn my life around in terms of my job prospects, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I think that they were able to sit down with me objectively and say, okay, take away all of the names of the companies that you've worked for and just look at the skills that you have attained from working at those companies. And that gave me a more objective sense of what I may be interested in and what I would qualify for. But I think from an alumni perspective, I would love to see, I know that we have the alumni LinkedIn network, and that's amazing. And I think that for us, it's a way to contact you, and so obviously it has to be initiated by us. And I think that having alumni that would come to campus and hold a talk on campus, or hold an information session, or hold some type of masterclass setting where you would be able to learn a little bit about what they're doing and what some of the opportunities are in their companies, because I know that one of the specific subsets of the LinkedIn page is a page that you have to accept to be in, and if you do accept to be in this, then you're accepting that an undergraduate student could contact you. And so if you're putting yourself in the position to have an undergraduate student contact you, then it seems all the more reason to maybe, if possible, come to campus and sort of give that information to students on the first-hand basis so that we're able to explore those different career paths, because most of our time is spent in academics, making sure that we get the best grades that we possibly can. And then the only exposure that we really have to those outside career paths comes via the Career Center and comes via the different career fairs that we have.
Anybody else want to add to that? Greg?
Yeah, I'll pick up. I think one of my favorite things about Tufts has been the alumni network, because like I knew everybody always talks about Tufts having a great alumni connection and after school you'll find a job. But I think one thing I realized was I didn't think about how personal it would actually be. My aha moment about what I wanted to do was when an alumni randomly contacted me finding out I was a sociology major, and they knew I was into social work. So they gave me a call, and from there, he said, I did this, this, and this is how I ended up, but you can also do this, this, and this, and he helped me lay out all these different plans. And then he came to campus and talked to me, but I think the alumni connection, at least from my perspective, has been one of my favorite things, and I'm not sure exactly how to improve it, but like you said, like I think people coming to campus and being able to introduce yourself and put a name to a face and have a conversation about the opportunities that are out there and the things that you did to get to where you are is extremely helpful, but also like helps us mold our paths and realize that you can take different steps to get to a different place.
That's great. So we're going to actually pause there and sort of stick around to answer questions, because we know there's a lot of questions, and we want to make sure that if folks can stay for 10 minutes. I do want to just sort of build on Ramon's sort of concept of like efficient and effective. One of the things we know about an immersive liberal arts, engineering experience is that we're going to have times when people are going to sort of have to sort of reconsider, stop, learn from failures. I mean, we still want people to go into a summer internship experience that isn't the right fit, or sort of take, go into sort of the second level of a major and then realize it's not the right thing and be a space that sort of holds that. So it's such an interesting question, because knowing what kind of experiences people are going to have leaving Tufts right now, I think that alumni engagement piece, as you both sort of mentioned, is huge as far as sort of helping people see someone 3, 4, 5 years out, 15, 20 years out, that those sort of lenses and perspectives and ability to sort of, network our students into what the sort of, you brought it up at the beginning, Anthony, sort of you coming in thinking, okay, doctor, lawyer, right? That is still something when so many of our applicants are focused on getting in here and then digging into the concept of what does one do with this incredible opportunity? How does it become a gateway into lifelong learning and skill building? That's where you come in. So I feel like I appreciate that sort of framing as the way that we can sort of pause the bigger conversation. We'll stick around. Can you join me in thanking our amazing students?